Oh, such language.
Yeah, there goes my ad revenue.
Yeah.
Clint the censor is going to come down on me.
If they haven't censored you the show because of me, I think
Yeah,
there's.
there goes my ad. Oh, sorry. I'm a pro.
I hear that. You've never really defined a pro what, though.
That's for the audience to decide.
Slippery claim.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us again for SEO Fight Club. So this week we have another fundamentals episode like last week where I go over some basic topic, but try to give you walk away tools that you can go and implement and use yourself if you see fit. So first I'll get into some boilerplate. So this is, again, not episode 100. So if you missed last week, the week prior to that, we said it was episode 100 coming up. Turns out it's not. Back when I lost my dad during that month, I messed up the numbers. And so I have a bit of catch up to do so that we get to an honest 100. So today we are backfilling the missing episode 72, and next week we'll backfill the missing episode 88, and then we will have episode 100. So Clint, what's going on with SEO this week?
I did episode 196. It's not episode 196 in reality, but I don't care. I'm calling it that. So what we're doing this week is I got some news stories. And then you can watch me fumble on a SaaS launch in my first major blog because I couldn't even log into my own stuff. So you can check that out and hopefully get a little something out of the Q&A session. We had a good Q&A session as a result of that, so I like it.
Well, if you haven't seen Clint's Q&A sessions, they tend to be full of lots of questions that are really striking at the core of tactical SEO. So, people don't hold back there. So I highly recommend that you check out his show. The content's amazing. And again, anytime it's a QA or a site audit or anything that's, lifting up the hood and working with the engine, you really don't want to miss those episodes. So to find a show, you go to YouTube and you just search for SEO this week, and it'll be the first result in the YouTube results. So another show we like to share is the SEO video show. Dre DeVera does an interview show where he interviews all the top SEOs. It's an amazing show. You should check it out. Again, just go to YouTube, search for SEO video show. And there's this little thing called IMG. And if you haven't heard about it, it's the community that we started up. There's events and courses and content and alerts. And there's a free side to it on Facebook. So if you follow that bit.ly link, IMG for free, that'll take you to the Facebook community. If you want to get all the premium content, then the link above, internetmarketing.gold. So, Lauren, are you with us? Can you tell us what's coming up?
Yeah, so we have another SEO pro tip about app optimization coming out on Friday, and then we're going to switch topics. So that's exciting. And if you are a tester, there is a secret testers meeting, but that's only for testers. And that is on tomorrow on Thursday. Then on Tuesday, we have an AMA with you, Ted.
Yeah, those testing meetings get off the hook. At the last testing roundup, Carolyn Holzman won first place. She got a $400 prize for the best test of the group. And I found out, I wasn't able to attend, but I found out what went on afterwards, and I went in and I had to redact some stuff. It was too good. And it's actually spawned off into like 15 other tests that are like crazy. And so, yeah, it was incredible. So the testing community, top notch. If you're not doing SEO testing, you're just crazy. And I understand if you can't like afford the time to do it, but you can at least be in a community that's doing testing. You can at least do that much. And if you're not, you're really just kind of flying blind and you're not aware of the state of the art and how things are changing. What do you think about testing, Clint?
No, I think they're awesome. No, I think I didn't really like. I did quote unquote. I use air quotes testing on my own, messing with my own sites and stuff. But I never looked at testing the way I did until after I met Kyle and got hooked up with him, and then started doing the SIA stuff, and then helping do an IMG test every once in a while when I can. So I find it really valuable. And Carolyn took a concept that I was doing. That I got from someone else, and she took that and took it in a different direction and turned that into a real cool test. And I'm excited to see what everyone else can do with that little nugget to squeeze a little bit more out of those things. So, and I'm being intentionally vague to make you guys, if you want to know what it is, because honestly, I taught that as a part of a non-recorded course or a non-recorded conference, and then. So I didn't really want to get it out because I was being greedy for myself. But now that it's there, you can see it as part of IMG, but hopefully it stays in IMG. So,
well, I went in and redacted the parts that made it easy.
Good.
But Kyle, what do you think about testing?
Well, what I was going to say is what Clint described is perfect. Somebody said something, he checks it out. Carolyn hears it and says, well, I think I could do this, and does something else with it. And that's the whole idea, is that these kind of things can spur different ideas, and not just in terms of we need to test till the end of time, but a lot of people take these things and they know how to apply it to their site. They see like, oh, that actually affects me in this way, and that's something that I can actually do. So that's the fun part of this is, we talk a lot that the failures create a lot of great ideas, but also the successes do as well, but they create it not maybe in the same linear thought that the original person had.
Yeah, exactly. Like I saw Carolyn's test and I instantly thought, oh, I could take that to a whole different level. So I have 4 tests running on is this as crazy as we think it is? And it blew the door off the hinges for me. That was one of the biggest insights I've seen. So if it originated from Clint, kudos, because man, that was a doozy. Lee, what do you think about testing?
I'm against it. I think it's great. The idea of taking people's ideas and spinning off in different directions is kind of the way that it goes. And I think in Carolyn's write-up, she'd credited Clint with the seed of the idea where it started. And I'll be honest, I've stolen a lot of stuff from everybody I can see on my screen. So all of you guys are good feeders for information for me. And I think you're right, Ted. If you're not testing or involved in a community of testing, you don't understand where the state of the art is, and you're just guessing, and you'll keep asking questions like this one. Ted, the update started today. You know what it's about. And that's a much less informed place to be than if you get involved in a community like this.
Yeah, I'm not touching the update today. It's looking like it's going to be a big one. We just don't know how big yet. So if you're in the community, you've seen my posts and my videos on it already. If you're not in the community, I'll talk about it more when we know more. So if you want the early take on it, that's in the premium group. And eventually when we know something fairly concrete, we generally make that public. So our topic, organic traffic. So last week we talked about goose egg SEO, which was a fundamental. This week we're going to stick with the fundamentals and try to get you to walk away with another tactic. And today I want to talk about organic traffic as a KPI for SEO. So, have you ever lost a client with a near top ranking because after 6 months they were still at the same ranking? Has anything like even vaguely similar to that happened to you guys in some point in your career?
Yeah, for sure. The you're not doing anything anymore. We're here.
Yeah. How about you, Clint?
Yeah, all the time. Until we got our reporting straight over to the OTT, we were dealing with that all the time.
Yeah, it's really common. It's probably the number one reason why you lose your client or you lose your in-house job. You go in, they task you with a trophy keyword. You know, they were already number 6, and 3 months into it, they're still number 6. And, you know, they're like, you're fired. Well, the problem is if you're only looking at rankings, that's going to happen again and again and again and again, because there's this, you know, whole other dimensions of value to the business that the SEO does. And if you're not looking at those other KPIs, you know, you're doing yourself a disservice, and losing those clients that way is probably completely unnecessary and quite possibly very avoidable. And so I want to talk about that. So to do all this, just like last week, we're going to do some reports, and I'm going to walk you through how to create those reports in Google Analytics. So just like last week's, we're going to customization and custom reports. We're going to create a new custom report, and we're just going to call it something like organic traffic. And this is the configuration for it. I want entrances. And I had a few people ask me, Ted, why not unique visitors? Why not, you know, sessions? Why not hits? And the reason we don't want those things is because there's too much bleed over from other attribution sources. So when I look at the report, I want those organic entrances because that's where people came from search into the website. If you use unique visitors, they could have, you know, they would still be organic if you're filtering by organic, but they could have organically came into another page and then navigated to this page you're looking at, and it affects those numbers. So you have an organic attribution problem. When you use the entrances, you get rid of that. You're seeing where did people organically enter the site for their session. And so those entrances are kind of the best metric, in my opinion, for SEO. And I saw that this website I was working with today, they already had conversions coded in. So I'm like, heck yeah, let's throw in conversions too. And then for the drill down dimensions, I just want source medium so I can get to that Google organic data. And then the page, because I like to see things by page. And so this is the configuration of that custom report. And again, be sure that you remember to set the time frame. So many times people get into the weeds on the data and then they discover, oh, it's just a week. I was sweating bullets. The numbers were so low. You know, no, go and look at a month. Why they don't default to a month, I don't know. But you have to know that they're going to give you a weird time frame to start with. And so when we go and look at this report, the first thing you are going to see is all those source mediums, because we wanted the drill down by source medium and page. So these are all the source mediums that our website is getting traffic from. And we see Google cost per click, we see email, we see Bing. You know, this all looks pretty good and healthy. We see Google organic in here. It's at 12%. When I start to see Google organic be 20% or higher, I get nervous. It kind of makes me suspicious that the business is neglecting channel marketing. because you shouldn't, especially when you get 50, 80% Google organic, you are not diversifying your marketing, and Google has the power to destroy you if you're not careful. Back in 2004, that was a mistake I made. I had too many eggs in the Google organic basket. Definitely diversify. If you don't, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. Email, social, other search engines, all those things are so important. And honestly, when they all fire properly, SEO will probably be the source of about 15 to 20% of your gross revenue for most like online retail type businesses. And so if you're not doing that, you're basically leaving 80% of your revenue off the table. So there's a good reason to diversify. You make more money when you do. But for today, we're going to drill into Google Organic. And so I didn't want to out the website, so I redacted the URLs. But we can see here that we have a lot of entrances by the home page and then by specific pages to a much lesser extent. So last week we found that if we went and found all the pages that had 0 entrances, that we could turn those zeros into ones, and for an online retailer like this, that would amount to about 1,500 extra shoppers in their store every month. And that's like the easiest SEO. It's a quick win. And then at the next level, we're going to start getting more granular. Like you did the wide sweeping things. Now you're kind of going page by page. And what we want to do is not only monitor the rankings, did we move up from number 6 to number 5, but we also want to monitor these entrances and ideally like conversions and revenue. And when you do, you can see that these numbers can move independent of each other. So you can do a bunch of SEO to a page where the ranking doesn't change. It started at number 4. After your SEO, it's still number 4, but your entrances could be 10 times as much. And so if you're not watching, you're going to miss it. You're not going to know that that thing you just did helped that page make 10 times as much money. And so if you do your SEO and the only KPI you have is rankings, you might have made the business 10 times as much money, but you weren't watching, so you didn't know to claim credit for it. And they're not going to fire you if you make their page generate 10 times as much money. That's better than they could have done, or they would have done it. But if you're not watching this data, if you're only looking at rankings, then you're blind to it. Then you're stuck that you didn't move the ranking, and that's what you're solely being judged by. You look a little troubled, Kyle. What are you thinking?
Oh, no, not at all. I was just making a note for my team to add this to our report.
Oh, okay.
We do it from the Search Console level. Same type of page level report, but this would just be one extra little thing that's nothing to add in because we use Data Studio, which I highly recommend.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's very likely that these numbers and those Search Console numbers are going to be nowhere near the same numbers.
Oh, I know. That's totally fine because it's easy to talk about this from 2 different perspectives.
Yep. But don't be shocked if they don't agree. And usually, not always, but usually you get larger numbers on the GA side. So yeah, we want to look at these types of numbers, and I like seeing conversions because conversions speak to the whole health of the entire ecosystem. Like if there is a problem anywhere, you are going to see it in conversions. So if you have an offensive photo on the page, you'll see it in conversions. If your server has errors or network issues or anything, if you have page load time issues, if you're not winning the click with your CRO, if you have a problem anywhere in the whole ecosystem of your business, it'll manifest in conversions. So it's really good to have your finger on the pulse of that and understanding what is normal and what is not. And so if you're not looking at it every day, you're not going to learn that, this is a normal conversion rate. And if that went down to 150, that we really need to sound the alarm. If these are car sales, that's a big deal. So you just gotta, know that if you have the ability to look at those numbers every day, it's really to your best advantage to look at those numbers every day. Another thing I like to do is I like to collate the data together. And so I will typically export this data out of Google Analytics, and whatever rank tracking system I have, oftentimes I roll my own, but if I'm using some other software, they typically have exports too. You can engineer an Excel template that does VLOOKUPs and merges the data. And then you have rankings, you have the organic entrances, and you have conversions by URL. I mean, that's the best spreadsheet for SEO in the world, hands down. That's the gold standard of rank tracking right there, is having that information. And in fact, if you're a software developer who creates rank trackers, your rank tracker needs to have the Google Analytics API integration. And I would say that the things you want to pull from it are very small. Like, I went and looked at a few rank trackers that have the integration, but they weren't doing any of the things I'd want with it. And I don't know why. So I'm just going to come out and say it. The thing I want to see is I want to see the URL. I want to see what rank position it's at. And ideally, I would want that presented also as ranking probability information. But I know that's 20 times harder than a normal rank tracker. Then I'd want to see the entrances for Google. I'd want to see the entrances for Bing. I'd want to see the all organic entrances, so all organic traffic. And then I'd want to see conversions and ideally organic revenue for those three, or all organic, Google, and Bing. And if I had that, like if that was the output in just simple spreadsheet form, that would be hands down the best rank tracker ever built on earth for SEO. And no one does it, but that's the opportunity in rank tracking. If that's what you're delivering, that is the golden standard of rank tracking.
Rank Tracker from SEO Power Suite has all but the conversions. So maybe I could talk them into adding that.
Yeah, so that's what you would ideally want to have set up. And you're at the mercy of your clients, because so many clients won't turn on the revenue tracking. They won't set up their goals. And if you get pulled into setting up their Google Analytics, that's an extra 3 to 6 month project all by itself to get it dialed in correctly. So make sure if you're going into a new client and they have nothing set up for attribution and reporting, you might have to set up, say, hey, before we can do SEO, we need to do a Google Analytics project first. So just be aware of that. And that brings us to that thing I just mentioned, ranking probabilities. So if you were to go to a client and say, hey, I just checked your rankings and that new page you have, good news. I took it from, 65 to number 20. And then the client's like, wow, that's great. And then they go to Google and they check and they're like, what do you mean? It's 68 now. I just checked. You're fired. That's That's another route to getting fired. And the problem there is that rankings, especially from rank trackers, they aren't, constant scalar values. Rankings are a probability. And so here I've checked the rankings of a URL 20 times in under a minute. And these are all the ranking values we got for that one URL for that one keyword in under a minute. Up here, I charted them. So the best it ranked was over here on the 16th try. It ranked 65 once. And these are little tiny bar charts. It ranked most commonly here at 72, and its worst case ranking was 80, which was fairly common as well. And so when we talk to clients about their rankings, you want to try to describe it in terms of a probability. So the way I see this is, when I try to tell a client about this URL, I'd say, well, it appeared in search 100% of the time. All right. And most commonly, it was number 72, 35% of the time. And it had a worst case of 80. It's like you're trying to give the best odds bet on what the client is going to see when they search for their keyword. If you were going to gamble on this in Vegas, how would you place the best odds bet of predicting the outcome of what the client will see? And that's really the game we're playing. And so most of the time, it might be in your interest just to have a boilerplate statement. 3 out of 4 times it was at the ranking, I'm going to say. Let them know they may need to try a few times before calling it. Because if they try once, they're just going to be an angry customer. And the other problem is your rank tracker might say that, you rolled an 80. So your ranking is an 80. Is that a fortunate roll? Is that an unlucky roll? Is that an average outcome? I mean, you don't know if it's a single snapshot. We had to take 20 snapshots to find out that the most common ranking was 72. And so, you want to be able to say most of the time when I check for your ranking, it's at this number, but, give it some concept of probability. 70% of the time it's this ranking. Another thing that happens is time sharing. So this URL, I checked 20 times, but it only appeared in search 15% of the time. So appeared in search 15% of searches, but when it appeared, it was 100% at 61. We call this time sharing because when you're not there, usually something else is. And this is really bad. So if you see this, you want to try to figure it out. And so an interesting thing happens because of these probabilities. So here we have 2 number 4s. Both cases in any rank tracker on Earth, when it appears, it's going to tell you both of these are number 4. And you're going to think, woohoo, number 4 is strong. Number 4. Except one of these is time sharing. This one is only in search 10% of the time. The other one is position testing. 10% of the time, they're number 3. So one of these number 4s is awesome. And one of these number 4s totally sucks and is weak. This first number 4 probably gets 10 times the traffic and conversions as the second number 4. And that's an important deal. And I know some people are saying, well, how do you know about conversions? Well, I don't. I'm just estimating based on the opportunity of being at the number 4 spot 10 times more of the time. And both of those pages are Etsy, and I'd be willing to bet one of those converts 10 times better than the other because of this. So it's remarkable that you could do SEO and you can go from number 4 to number 4 in the rankings. Like if you fix this, if this was your golden opportunity and you made it like this, you'd probably get 10 times the traffic without changing rankings. And we see that. Like this is just a keyword and we see this all the time. So you can actually improve the business, make more money, get more organic traffic to a page, and not even change the ranking. And most SEOs, they don't know that. They don't understand. All they think about is the ranking. When I first started my software company and I was in beta, one of my first beta customers for Quora was an SEO who only did SEO for law firms. And he used my software and then he said, Ted, I followed the recommendations and my ranking didn't change. I was number 4 and I'm still number 4 afterwards. And I was crushed. I was like, oh man, that sucks. You know, this is my livelihood. But he's like, Ted, the good news is I got way more organic traffic, and not just like everyday organic traffic. If you're familiar with law firm SEO, these guys bid up their keywords to 75, 100, 150 bucks a click. We did something similar to a 10x on their organic traffic by following the on-page recommendations. We didn't move the needle because there's a massive off-page deficit. But fixing that on-page is one of the techniques of solidifying your rankings. And so it's so important that, you know, if you're doing a ton of on-page SEO, it's probably even more important that you're looking at traffic and conversions and revenue, because that's probably where you're going to see it. Another thing that happens, like, let's say you have some thin page and all of a sudden you add a bunch of text to it. What often happens where you see a lot of traffic is it won't be from one keyword. You'll expand your keyword reach and all of a sudden, you know, you're ranking best for a keyword, but you're ranking okay for a number of other terms. That's all going to be organic traffic to that page. You know, another thing that happens is meta descriptions. If you don't tune your meta descriptions, Google can A/B test, and that can cause volatility in your ranking. And so if you're not tuning your meta descriptions for your target keyword, that can be causing you volatility. That can be causing you to be tested up and down based on the snippet that Google's picking. So some of this is going to be some of that. And so there's just like a number of things that you have to be mindful of with your on page that can lead to some of this. So you took the page from number 4 all the way to number 4 with your SEO over 3 to 6 months. But if you look at things, at KPIs beyond just the rankings, then there's a percent chance to appear in search went up, a percent chance to appear at a specific ranking improved. Maybe downward position testing went away. Upward position testing may have become more common. You could increase traffic substantially, which would lead to increased conversions and revenue. All these things can happen without rankings changing. And these are all bragging points. These are all ways to not get fired because you didn't turn a 4 into a 3. And in fact, some of these are more important than turning a 4 into a 3. And, you know, it's, if you're worried, you know, if you're at that 6-month point and you still haven't moved the needle on the ranking, maybe you should go look at the organic traffic historics for that URL you've been tuning. You might be surprised. Good news is if you have logging dialed in, it's all there. So you can save the day at the last minute. if you don't have logging dialed in, it's something you need to do. So that's my lesson for today. What do you think, Kyle?
Just a couple of thoughts that I had. One was, when you're tracking conversion, something that we found on that is that you can see what a conversion rate for the site should be. Meaning, they should get X number of conversions for this amount of traffic. There was a time a few years ago where we were going through that with a newer client, and we found that they had all these pages that had enough traffic that they should be getting at least one conversion, and they were getting 0 conversions. And so what we did is we went through and we realized on all these pages, they had a different conversion point set. It wasn't in the same spot that it was for the rest of the site. So we simply moved it to the same spot, and conversions exploded because all these sites, all these pages that really should have been getting a conversion weren't. And it was just simply moving the conversion spot. But we were able to see that just because we knew that the conversion rate for the site, they should be getting this amount for this type of traffic. We got fired because we didn't do anything from that one, which was great. Appreciated that. I had one other thought. Oh, I think that you've kind of demonstrated very clearly that you don't really want to follow ranking as a primary KPI. And I think it would be difficult for people to demonstrate what you just demonstrated on ranking probability, that you're going to be, the 4 to the 4. I think that would be quite difficult. If somebody's in the spot though, where they're thinking like, oh man, I probably should be monitoring those other KPIs, such as the impressions you're getting, the traffic you're getting. What's kind of nice is that even if you can't get the conversions from Google Analytics, because that isn't set up, Search Console goes back quite a ways now. I think it goes back 16 months or 18 months or something like that. You can get a lot of historical data to show that you have moved. And one thing that people might really want to look at is where that page started with impressions, traffic, and the number of queries that page had when they started. Something that we've added to our reports is a benchmark showing this is where we started. And that's really good to show overall growth, but also on a flat month where, nothing really improved. You can say like, well, yeah, nothing improved, but please keep in mind where we came from. That it was all the way down here. And you can go back and get a lot of that historical data if you don't have things set up currently, like I need to get on this immediately. Search Console will help you out a lot.
Yeah, and with online retail, you can recreate the analytics for it. So normally the marketing department knows how many units of which products were sold on which days. Those things go through a payment processor. They don't rely on Google Analytics for that information. So if you know you were working on product X for 3 months, you can say, hey, can I get the sales numbers by day for product X for the past 3 months, and overlay that information with your SEO events and your other data. So there are ways to recreate it for sure. And I know that the world doesn't have ranking probabilities. And the good news is you don't really need that tool. It's a fun, cool thing to have. But if you're looking at those organic entrances, that's going to tell you the same story. So look at those entrances, look at your rankings, look at your conversions. If you have them all there side by side over time, you're going to see the important information in that. The ranking probabilities is a cool diagnostic tool, but it's not required by any means. What do you think, Clint?
I like it. I was just kind of brainstorming some ways that people can do this on their own without having your tool. I know you mentioned that you might be considering adding it to the Chorus suite, which would be awesome. But just like brainstorming some ideas, and maybe in the meantime, you could try SEO tools for Excel. They have a Google search API, and you can just kind of run that a little bit manual, but get the same approach to be able to articulate that. We're a bit used to articulating that to your clients, and to be able to leverage this information as soon as possible.
Yeah, or get a few proxies and to VPN through and just check, from 3 or 4 locations, what do you get? And then express that as a probability instead of just rolling with one of them. Say, hey, 3 out of 4 times you were number 13 with a worst case of 22.
Mm-hmm.
And then at least the customer has an expectation that, oh, I should try a couple times.
Yeah.
What do you think, Lee?
I'm always, I love the different uses of data. And, I think you presented an interesting argument about using traffic as a metric, because a lot of times rankings doesn't do it. And, Kyle talking about, oh, we improved the, CRO of pages, so we basically tripled the, or we increased the number of pages, and their conversion rates all over the base, all over the place, exploding the business, but then getting fired because you're not moving the rankings around or whatever. I think that's kind of one of the challenges a lot of times that I hear a lot of SEOs talk about. We move the rankings around, or we do this or that, and the client doesn't appreciate it. And I think that, it emphasizes here this plus your last show, things that tie directly to the business, sales and bottom line. And it's not always rankings, or it's not always ranking. I know Clint tends to rail on sometimes about, a client wants a vanity keyword that has nothing to do with, business or anything else. They just want it. So I think it's a set of good practices to look at the things that actually matter in terms of moving the business forward and being able to clearly communicate that to your clients.
I think it comes with positioning. And Marty Marion talks about positioning all the time. And us as SEOs are pretty shit at positioning. So at the end of the day, we're doing SEO. So we're providing rankings is kind of like what our lead product is. But as we sell it, oh, we're going to get you more sales. We're going to get you more leads. We're going to get you more conversions. And our thought process behind it, and it's old, and Ted's trying to get us off of it, is the more rankings you got, the more leads, sales, and conversions you're going to get. And it's not necessarily the case, as Kyle illustrated. If you're just doing SEO and the client is just judging you off of rankings, that's kind of your fault, because you didn't say, while we're doing the rankings, we're focused primarily on traffic and conversions, because if you can't pay your bills with your profits, then you can't pay me, and I want you to continue to pay me. And that's a position that I've started using with my clients, and they tend to stick around a whole lot longer when you show rankings, you show traffic improvements, and then also you say, here's my goal. Like I'm dealing with a 400 site rehab network right now, and it's, the goal is, it's minimal, but on the grand scheme of things, when each conversion is $2,000, if I can make each one of those 400 sites get 2 or 3 conversions a week, I've significantly increased his bottom line, and I've paid for myself like 100-fold. So positioning and I think your method with the ranking probabilities allows us, combined with Kyle's ideas on CRO and just better reporting, will position us better and help us with client retention.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so that's our show. So next week we'll do episode 88, and then after that we'll do episode 100. So I want to thank everyone for their time. Any final last announcements, anybody?
Check out Clint's course in IMG. It's
oh
really good.
Yeah, here you have a great
stepping up your SEO game. So as you guys know, it's focused a lot on obviously Quora, but I went through it, and there's so many things that you can learn, even if you don't want to use Quora. You know what I mean? I would get my hands on a Quora report, which Clint talks about how to do, and then you can walk through a report that means something to you as Clint walks through the report that he does in the course. That's fantastic.
Yep. Also, my schema tool is ready to launch. So SEO this week. Check out next week's episode on Monday, and you guys can check that tool out. See if it's something that'll help you out.
Awesome. You want to do a show next week on our channel?
I want to get some betas in there because we still have some bugs to work out, and then I'll hit you guys up.
All right. Yeah. Let me know when it's ready.
Yep.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. I'll see you next time.